Parker. Welcome to 2020 Bolingbrook. With me today is two Will County board members, and we're going to talk about the American Rescue Plan. Sit back for some good information. Hello, Bolingbrook. Welcome back to Bolingbrook 2020. With me is my good friend Saud, who you met already, and Jackie, and we're going to talk about the American Rescue Plan. The American Rescue Plan part we're going to talk about is the money that was given to the state of Illinois and then to the county of Will. And being on the board, both Saud and Jackie have a little more input on what's going on with the American Rescue Plan. So Saud, why don't you start off and tell us a little bit about it?
Hey, so the American Rescue Plan, as you have mentioned, it has allocated some certain funds to different counties, to different states, etc. Following which, Will County has received a sum of around 133 million,
131 million.
$131 million. And right now, what the board is extensively working is to develop, or in fact, it has kind of developed a framework where they can utilize these funds that have been allocated. So the framework starts like this. So they have divided different needs of the county into something which they call as a foundation of American Rescue Plan for Will County, where they have different allocations, or they call it the pillars. So we have an infrastructure pillar, we have a public health pillar, we have an economic development, which is to boost the economics of the county. They have allocated some for unmet needs of the county, and also with revenue replacement, which might help in, which will help in the reducing the wealth gap. So these are a few framework. This is a framework that the board has developed, and based on this framework, they are working on how to brainstorm on getting from the public as well as from the wisdom of the board on the ways that we feel is required to utilize this money in the best optimal way. And to expand more on this, I think Jackie can explain more because she has been working with the executive committee on this for a longer time.
All right, Jackie, you want to give us a little bit more information on that?
Thank you, Saud. I appreciate that. Yeah, we got this money allocated to us just really close to about a year ago. They said $131 million. We realized we didn't have all of the expertise within the county staff or enough county staff to figure out what are the best ways to spend this money. But number one, it has to comply with the federal guidelines. We can't just go out there and do anything we want with the money. It has to match up with the federal rules. And so we are going through a whole process of evaluating for each item whether or not it complies with the law, what the impact of it would be, and then how it would be managed. And so in the first pillar, where we talk about infrastructure, we're going to be looking at projects throughout Will County where we have issues with sewer, with water, with broadband, and with roads and bridges. Those are the areas of the infrastructure that we're going to be taking a look at. And if you live in a rural part of Will County, which is pretty much half of the county, you don't have access to broadband. Everything's done by satellite. So that's the issue there. We have a variety of areas throughout Will County that do not have access to sufficient clean water that is safe for the residents to drink. We also don't always have access to good stormwater management. We have areas where we have flooding. So that area will be looked at, as well as lead abatement in the lead pipes. In the sewer, I remember when I got on the county board, I found out we had a neighborhood that literally, when it rained, they would have raw sewage running down the street. So these are areas of really extreme need, and we're going to be getting input, as you mentioned, from the residents throughout the county to see what is most important to them, and that's going to help guide us through this process. There are really three big areas where we're going to push out information, and we have a timeline for all of this. One is for the infrastructure. The other one is for health. We're going to look at health care. We're going to look at access to mental health care, behavioral health care. We're going to study the disaster response. How can we plan for the next pandemic so that we don't go through all of the same things that we went through and deal with the same frustrations that we had this time? We're going to look at food stabilization, creating opportunities to expand local food networks. We are also going to look at our disaster response and address disparities within the county from a health perspective. So there's a lot of different things, just even within the health sub-pillar. Economic development subplans. We're going to look at training and housing and financial services, how to help provide better access to affordable childcare. We're going to look at education, energy, sustainability, just a large number of different things. Economic development, that will be looking at a number of different things like community partnerships with other local units of government, social services, fire protection, emergency management, outdoor gathering spaces, just a number of different things. We have a long way to go and really a short time to get there. Yep. We have to have all this money, I guess you'd say, earmarked by the end of 2024, and the money has to actually be spent by the end of 2026. And I don't mean spent by the county, but spent by the organizations who receive these grants or these allocations. And so we're going to be doing a lot of outreach on social media and on our website to try to get input from county stakeholders, county residents, about what's most important to them. But we've got to get going, and we've got to get going soon. And that's why we got a consultant to give us a hand with the process.
Now, in reaching out to the residents, are you guys doing a survey? Or are you going to do a mail blitz? How are the residents going to put their input in?
Well, Saad, do you want to add something to that?
Definitely. So there'll be different directions that we will take, different path we will take, so that we can reach to the maximum number of residents here. There will be an official survey done by a consultant company which we're using. There will be and we will, as your board members, as your representative, we will try to reach out on different various platforms to different communities of the Bolingbrook. We will do a Facebook blast to have the link to the surveys. We can send mailers to the public, so if that works for them. But there will be multiple channels through which we will be communicating with people, so that we can receive their inputs, we can understand the needs and wants of our areas and throughout the county to reach to a consensus on where this money can be used and what the public sentiment is about this.
Do we have a timeline when we think the survey might go out to everybody?
So the way it was explained to us, the way they're planning to do this, once we start the rollout, each one of these is going to have like 60 days for gathering applications and input. And during a portion of that 60 days, and I'll just give an example. Let's say they put out a survey on a website, and they say on infrastructure, we're going to gather data for 14 days. And they put the website out there and the survey, and they get no response until day 14. And suddenly they get a bunch of responses. Well, they're not going to cut it off. They're going to give people more time. So some of it is going to have to kind of be monitored based on the response level and how long it's taking people to respond. And I think it'll be different on each pillar, whether it's infrastructure, whether it's health, whether it's economic development, unmet needs, or that revenue replacement. Now, that one, there probably won't be much in the way of input from the community, because that revenue replacement, that number actually was decided as part of the rulemaking process based on the size of your county, the revenue of your county. That is literally replacement revenue for our county. And based on our size, it's $10 million. So we know out of the $131 million, we're going to pay the consultant, and we're going to give the county $10 million to replace lost revenue. But after that, we want the public's input, and so we'll be pushing hard for that.
Okay. Now, listening to what Jackie just said, Saud, it sounds to me like with each segment of what you've classified as important, a survey will go out to the residents.
That's correct. We will have a survey specifically for infrastructure that will go out. We'll have a survey for health services, public health, that will go out. We have a survey for input on economic development of the county, and a survey for revenue replacement and unmet needs. But the survey will be out there.
Okay.
But definitely people are hurting all over the county, all over the country, or state, and this will be a good chance for us to provide whatever help we can provide for them to recoup from the effects of pandemic that are still going on, and it might continue for some more time. So this is a critical time, and this American Rescue Plan is a very good way that can be very helpful for a lot of people, especially for a lot of people in our county.
No, you know what's good? I know when I take a survey and sometimes they're so overwhelming, like the questions seem to never end, that I just give up and I don't even bother.
So they showed us an example. So that was a good segue. They showed us an example, and they had, and I'll just do infrastructure. There'll be like 9 boxes, maybe 12, but enough diversity, right? And they're going to say, okay, so you've said for economic or for infrastructure, you want to put $50 million out. So the survey will say you have $50 million to spend. Here are the 9 or the 12 areas where you can spend it. Where would you prioritize the money going? And those 9 to 12 areas will be highlighted. There'll be a description behind each one. And you as a resident or a citizen of the county can go pick the ones that you want to spend that $50 million on.
That'll check your fiscal responsibility, because if you get down to the bottom and you're minus 142 million, you're going to know you did something wrong.
Well, no, and that's really the real purpose of this, because we want people to understand there's not unlimited funding. This is not a, write a letter to Santa Claus and ask for 22 toys. We have a finite number of toys in the box that you can purchase, and that's it. And so that is the process that we're going to be using.
And it's about prioritizing what's really important and what are your short-term goals versus your long-term goals. So this gives a chance for the residents who are the real stakeholders in this to present their view and to participate in this rescue plan.
Right, it's their money. At the end of the day, last time I looked, they don't have, well, I guess they do have a printing machine in Washington, D.C., but they can't print unlimited, because then at some point our money becomes worthless, right? So this is all revenue that has to, at some point, go back to the federal government, and the only way for that to happen is through taxes, and the only way people can afford to pay taxes or pay more in taxes is if they're making money. If their income levels go up, if people are fully employed, if businesses have recovered, and that is what will pay back the money that's being used to rescue our country.
That's
and
really.
we will make sure that it does not increases any taxes on you, or it has any effect on the taxes that you pay.
So I think, do you have a time frame when residents should start seeing the first survey hit?
Yeah, that's interesting. So I think we have a couple more meetings. They kind of alluded that today. A couple more meetings with the
Consultant.
Consultant. Thank you. Lost the word for a minute. The consultant, and then I think we're going to be ready to roll. But as I mentioned, they're not going to do infrastructure and health and economic development all at the same time. They're going to stagger them, and so you may see a wave with a survey and applications coming in, and then a few more weeks later, another pillar will take off. And that way it's not too overwhelming for everybody, because there are some groups, organizations that might want to apply for money in all of the pillars. And so to ask them to maybe do their application in all 4 pillars at the same time would be a hardship. And I'll just take the township, for example. And I'm not saying we're going to apply for anything in our local township, but let's say they wanted to apply for money in infrastructure for a road project, and maybe they wanted to apply for some money in the health category for behavioral health, and they also wanted to maybe do something in the economic development area, and maybe unmet needs, they wanted to apply for some funds to build a food pantry. You can't do all 4 of those at the same time. I mean, it's a stretch. So it's good that this is going to roll out over a period of time.
And I believe if I had read in today's committee meeting, the next time the consultants are there will be in June. So I think we can expect the survey to go somewhere time after June.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would say that that's probably a pretty good guess. I mean, it would be nice if it happened sooner, but we want to do this right because there's a lot at stake, $131 million. And The county got money, the state got money, the village of Bolingbrook got money. In fact, I'm very curious to find out what they're going to spend their allocation on. I believe it was $9 million. Don't quote me on that, but I believe it was $9 million. Townships did not get money. Park districts did not get money. The park district is already putting in some verbal and even a couple of written requests for some funds. I don't think the library has asked for anything. Just to kind of think about the other local units of government, and they didn't receive anything either. So.
Yeah, as far as Bolingbrook is concerned, I know there is some kind of interest in an athletic facility for the youth, to have like an indoor facility where youth can utilize it, especially since we have long winters now. So an indoor facility, there's some need from the public, and that's where they're looking at. So we, as your representative, might look into see if there is some kind of funding available for this facility to go, and we will find out in the near future if we can utilize some of these funds towards that.
Well, residents, you've heard a lot from our two board representatives here in Bolingbrook. Below, you will see contact information. If you have other questions, please reach out to them. They'll be happy to answer anything for you. Again, we'll see you later. Take care, Bolingbrook. Bye-bye. Well, I hope you enjoyed the show as much as I did today. As you can see, Jackie and Saud are very involved in what's going on our Will County Board. Stay tuned for more information from them. They are a wealth of knowledge. Take care, Bolingbrook. I'll see you next time.